Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gents. My name is Miguel, aka Mighty Migz, and I'm the host of this Mighty Migz Lifestyle Podcast. And this episode, we have the one and only Jason Urbanowicz. How are you, good sir?
Mate, I'm great. Great to be here.
Hey, look at that. Yeah, pumping those guns all the way from Queensland, the Sunshine State. But before we go
Yep.
further ahead, just please don't forget that the sponsor of this podcast is actually Elite Supplements in Chatswood. And if you're somebody who's looking to get into shape, gain some muscle, lose weight, or just help your health get better in the long run, please visit the page on the description box below if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're viewing this on Instagram and get the Mighty Mix Lifestyle discount promo code for 10%, and that'll help the supplements or whatever you're going to buy taste even better. Okay,
Well,
but without further ado, give us an introduction about yourself, Jace.
Josie Urbanowicz, turning 51 in 4 weeks, and I don't know how that happened because I'm sure I was only 21 a few years ago, but here we are at 51. Love martial arts, everything to do with submission, grappling, MMA, the whole bit. Rolling around with blokes half my age, half these days that are half my age but twice as flexible, and they think recovery is optional. Written 2 books. One actually become a #1 bestseller, and I use that to remind my daughter of that every time she ignores my advice. So, however, she still does. So it doesn't carry any weight in this household. Spent a long time in the fitness industry. It's how I started, and that was my real passion was helping people get into shape and get fit. That then transformed into then understanding more about the mindset and knowing that physical was one part of it, but uh, personally for myself, why was I holding myself back in other areas of my life, and these self-sabotaging beliefs and roadblocks we hear a lot about these days. So I got really obsessed with why do we do the things that aren't in our best interest. So became a presenter, teacher, learned under my mentor for about 10 years about all the strategies, methods, teachings for how to, help people get unstuck. But for the last 18 years, been running a company called Trainer HQ with my business partner, Brad Shepherd. And really the essence of that is to help those in the fitness industry, which is how we met, to learn not only the business skills, but develop a real success mindset so they could, have a real profitable and successful business in the industry. So got a daughter, 15-year-old, and a loving family. And so, mate, that's really a snapshot of, I guess, myself at this stage.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, you know what? For those of you personal trainers listening to this, I've learned a lot from this man himself. And not only that, he helped me, boost my confidence as a personal trainer while I'm selling or while I'm promoting myself on the gym floor or even marketing myself online. So the list goes onwards. So if you're interested in that kind of, mentorship or service, just
Hmm.
contact Jason himself, and I'll give you guys his Instagram page on the description box below.
Perfect.
Whenever you're ready. So yeah, and yeah, that's quite an introduction there. That's awesome, sir. So you have a very good balanced life. So what inspired you to become a martial artist?
It's interesting, and uh, like a lot of people at my age would probably say Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, those type of people, and they were a significant part. However, I was fortunate enough. My father was a policeman, and in Queensland they have things called Police Citizens Youth Club, and so he would pick me up from kindy, and I would go into work with him, and they had all these different, activities. Judo being one of them. And I just remember sitting there watching it and being enthralled by it. And I think as a young boy, being 4 when I started, it was a really good outlet for me. I think all boys should learn how to wrestle, grapple, at that young age. And then it was the Japanese discipline. They're not that I really realised at that age, but I was really attracted to that honor and, like I said, discipline, the courage that it brought out. So it was really through my father that having that opportunity to see it and witness and experience it that got me into it. And then as I got older and evolved, then yeah, there was the people like your Bruce Lees and Chuck Norris that really where I was a real big fan of, and that was something I always admired, is the ability to have that in your life. That and it goes way beyond just fighting and martial arts. It's a way of life.
And obviously, that's foundation of your discipline, even up to now, leading up to 51 years young. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's the main thing that I look forward to. Like so weights and strength training, all that stuff, done it forever as well. But the going to a place where you've got other like-minded people and you're doing combative training and you're bringing out the best in somebody else and you're always learning. Like I'll tell you now, I still feel like a white belt. There's just so much to learn. You never learn enough. It takes so much repetition to really master something. And yeah, it's something that I look forward to. I was saying to you earlier before we came on, like I've got a half an hour drive to get there. Some of the boys drive even further and we train at 4:30 in the morning. So even that, like, I don't go, hey, I'm up at 4:30, look at me, or I'm training at 4:30 a.m. It's not about that. Whenever you train, you train. But for me, it's just that extra thing that it takes, the ability to get your ass out of bed at 3:30. It's not like freezing down south, but it's, 7 to 8 degrees here in the morning. There's all
Oh,
those things that I like. So before I even get there, I'm instilling in myself that discipline, that drive, that purpose. When I'm driving there, I'm listening to a podcast. It's just really my time in the morning. So yeah, it's a huge part of my life.
okay, okay. Well, that's awesome. Because not everyone has that kind of discipline. Because at 4:30 in the morning, I think 90% of the nation, maybe even the world, don't even have that discipline to get out of bed that they're in. Especially down here in South Sydney. I mean, in Sydney or just New South Wales in general, it's just cold
Yeah,
here. But for me, I like winter. But the only hard part is just getting up out of bed. So especially during stuck in under warm, like you got your hoodie on and you got your pajamas on and the warm quilt. But it is what it is. But in that part of does Brizzy have winter as well, right?
yeah, yeah. It's funny. People are like, oh, you guys never. But it has been cold here, and what people don't maybe understand is that it might be 22 during the day, but then it'll drop to 7 or 8 overnight. So it's a massive drop. Where in Melbourne or whatever, it's maybe hits 14 for an hour during the day, and then it's down to a similar temperature. So for us, it's a fair shift. It's like
Yeah.
anything under 10 degrees, man. I don't care. It's cold. Yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
sadly, I mean, Sydney's just become like Melbourne. We have 4 seasons in one day now. I mean, often.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, to me anyway. But maybe some people may disagree. But I'm just thinking. I think I live in Melbourne now, so yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, look, we joke. We go, yeah, we get two weeks of winter, every year, and it's probably accurate. During the day, it's nowhere like down south. But yeah, anyway, that
oh,
time of the
okay,
morning,
okay.
it's cool. So,
Yeah,
but
true, true.
But it's interesting because it's like there's something in that, and especially for people listening, is that it it's going to be you're also accountable to other people. Like if I don't turn up or I cancel last minute, I'm letting the other guys down as well. So you've got to be self-disciplined. You've got to have that purpose and drive to get out of bed because otherwise it's easy to sleep in.
Yeah.
However, when there is a team and there's other people relying on you, that's that's what makes it maybe a little bit easier. And I guess that's why people have a trainer, right? Because left to their own devices, they probably would let themselves down, but they're going, well, I've got to go and see Miguel. I'm paying him. This is something I've got to do. I want to do. But if they didn't have you there, it could be snooze today,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then they put that habit into their life rather than okay, well, I'm doing this because part of it is I'm not going to turn up.
yeah.
So
Of course, yeah, yeah. Because it's the underlying motive, So your purpose, and you got your own reasons why you want to keep sharpening your skills as a martial artist, and you want to keep lifting weights. But it is
yeah,
what it is. So keep at it, good sir. You're still young, like you said. You're still a white belt at heart, but the black belt honor is going to be there always. Yes. So next question here: can you please tell us the benefits of judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu training as individual styles of fighting? Because we would like to know. Yep.
say straight off the bat, judo as doing it as an adult is probably not the greatest art to do. It can be quite hard on the body, knees and all that stuff. So it's something that I think you would want to do as a kid. I'm not saying you don't do it. And these days, instead of getting thrown on the tatamis, the real little mats, they'll have the big like Olympic gymnast mats. So if you are of an older age and you go and do it, then at least you're not getting thrown hard because it does hurt if you're not used to it and you're not good at it.
Of
But the
course. Yeah.
benefits of it is, my personal experience from doing security and all that kind of work is that it's a good alternative to having a strike or punch. So the worst thing in the world you want to do is grab a judo player, gi or no gi. And people think that the gi, because judo was created back, in Japan, but they used to wear suits, so it was to replicate suits. It had nothing to do with the cloth. So there's so many ways to get thrown and taken down without a gi. So in close, and if it gets into a grapple, which most fights do, unless you get king hit, if a judo player gets their hands on you, then you're going for a ride, and that's
Of
it.
course, of course.
So, and I did it many times, without having to punch anybody. And 1 minute they're standing, next minute they're looking up at you, bewildered. And it's a rare person then decides that they want to start throwing punches from then on in.
Yeah,
But the shock of the brain, it throws them out of whack. So most people are bewildered, like, how the hell did that happen? So it's a good alternative.
I think there are practical people who actually use it well in MMA, especially in the high level of UFC. A few of them, like Kara Parisian, and then you got
he was great at it.
yeah, and Khabib and the Dagestani boys. Like a lot of the sweeps that they see when I watch these, videos about judokas actually like in analyzing their takedowns. A lot of them,
Yeah.
majority of them, seem to be more like judo sweeps and takedowns. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah. We and where we train, we'll use them to set up other things. So if you get the sweep, great. But if it's to get them off balance, and then you can get in on a single leg, or you can get to their back, or you can get into a front headlock. It's all that stuff. So high level technical throws, probably not so much. You won't see that in MMA, of course, because it's limited. But yeah, you'll see the really good guys you mentioned. They'll use it to set up other things. So it's like striking. It's like you don't just throw big haymakers. You want to set up things, see how people react. So it's really beneficial, and I believe it's a great art to learn. Again, I said earlier, if you're older, but you can go and learn older. You just got to find the right place that can cater for you if you are going to be at an older age. But good art to learn, and one that I think is really worthwhile doing. So.
Of course, of course. I think it's just I wouldn't say it's overlooked, but it's not as popular as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu these days. And from what I've seen, like when I do those no-gi matches or like Abu Dhabi kind of like matches, like when the judoka gets to grapple against the Jiu-Jitsu guy, like while they're standing, the judoka is usually more like more technical or something like that. That's just maybe just from the videos that I've been seeing. But what are your thoughts on that, by the way, when I say something like that?
From standing.
Yeah, or just like grappling in general, like the Abu Dhabi Combat Club type of competitions where they're just standing at first and they try to take somebody down and then they get on the ground, get into the wizard or to somebody's guard. The judoka seems to know more things than the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ace. Maybe it's just the matches that I've been watching, but from what I've seen.
Could be, and it could be just on those particular judo players and how much they've actually done Niwaza, which is the Japanese name for being on the ground. It just depends on how much they've dedicated their time to that. But I mean, look, the thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and like it all originated back from judo anyway. You can go and look at old books, and they've just come up with new names for them. Like they're all there. They're all there in the old textbook. So there's nothing really new. Okay, well, Eddie Bravo, rubber guard, and all that stuff, but that's only suited to a certain kind of person with extreme flexibility. There's no way you'll see me doing that stuff. But most of the stuff, they've just called it new names.
Yeah, just like Sambo as well. Sambo has wrestling and jiu-jitsu and judo.
Judo combined.
Yeah, exactly. But I kind of wish maybe I will learn grappling one day, but I'm more of a striker. But So it's just if I had to choose one, maybe judo only because I'm fascinated by the sweeps and the throws, and that's just me though. So like what you mentioned to me before in our group in the chats that we do is that it depends on the person often. So
it does. Look, judo is really technical and it takes a lot of drilling to get efficient. But some of the ones you were talking about, the sweeps and all that, you can pick them up, reasonably quick. But again, like there's higher level to judo, different throws, that you wouldn't waste your time with. So
and
Yeah,
Uchimata and all that
yeah,
stuff.
Chimata, yeah.
Yeah. So that wouldn't you wouldn't teach that to a white belt, would you? Like the Uchimata, or would you? Would?
Again, it just depends. It just depends on their age, who they are, what they want it for, and I think that's what it boils down to. It's like, what are you doing it for? Like, what are you trying to achieve with it? So if you're just an enthusiast and you go, I just want to learn a bit of kung fu, a bit of this, I just want experience of it. You go and do it. But if you're using it for self-defense and you want to be effective, then yes, what you got to understand, why are you training? What's your purpose for training?
That's good. That's good. Well, those are good answers. I like it. So let's go on to the next question. So I actually was looking at the old updated one, so I got the updated structure
Yeah.
here in front of me instead. So the question is, how do you keep your mind sharp and also motivated to stay in shape in your early 50s? Of course, you probably already answered that, but do you want to give us like a more in-depth answer to what you said in your introduction?
Yeah, I've been asked this before about the motivational part, and I think because I've been training, well, not think I know because I've been training since a young age, been active since the age of 4. I've never felt that connection to need to be motivated. It's a part of who I am, and the way I explain it to people is you got to find if you think it's another thing to do, like, oh, I should go to the gym, I should do this. When you start saying that stuff, you're fighting a losing battle already. The question I'd be asking is, why might I want to go and do this rather than I should? You know what I mean? So should is like there's going to be resistance to you doing it. So I'd say, why might I want to go and do this? What could be the benefits of doing it? What might be some of the outcomes? So for me, the way I look at it these days, it's changed. So when I was in my team, I just wanted to be buff. I wanted to be stronger than my old man. I wanted to look good. Still don't mind looking good, but it's not my main purpose. And now the training behind it is that I feel like if you're physically strong, capable, you're mentally, and emotionally strong, and there's different versions of that, then you can handle what life throws at you, right? So I feel like I'm training and doing the martial arts and all that stuff helps set me up to deal with pressure in the real world. I run a business. I've got a lot of staff, family. So those things help me to navigate life. Uh, can't, because you do jiu-jitsu, or it's pressure, it's a pressure game. You're doing striking, you do, like, if there's pressure, if you don't experience that, or you're at the gym and you're just grinding out that last one and you're trying to push through it, there are all ways to build resilience. There are all ways to show what you're truly made of. So then in other areas of your life, dealing with problems, challenges, setbacks, you've got that to fall back on, and it's not a new experience. So that's how I probably view it now.
Okay, okay. So I think it's like, an escape to reality. Like if you're going through some kind of grief, like, whether it's a personal setback or loss of a loved one or whatever you call it, you can always go back to that as to keep your mind off that and just to one of the ways to keep you sane. Am I correct?
Yeah, because otherwise, I have this thing called the me first principle. And I used to teach it a lot. It's like, how do you give yourself the best part of the day? So that could be just spending 5 minutes connecting with your partner before you rush off and you get busy, and then you come home and you're tired and exhausted and you get the scrap. So I look at it as me first principle, and it's not about a huge amount of time, but it's like, give yourself the best bit at the start, and then the rest of the world can have me. And then when I get home, at least I've ticked off on that. What most people do is they don't do that. They get up, they're rushing to work, they're doing whatever they do, they're not eating well, they're not exercising, and then they come home, they're exhausted, they're on the couch drinking a bottle of wine or whatever it is. And look, I don't mind a wine either, but the problem is that they're giving themselves scraps. You know, they don't connect. They don't have the energy to connect with their kids or their partner. So I always say the me first principle: find something that is going to set you up in that regards. In that way, you can deal with challenges. Like I said earlier, about learning about emotional intelligence. Like I keep sharp by, I've learned a lot about how to deal with my emotions, how to check in with that. Always learning, updating. uh, That part's just as important as the physical part, right? So, okay, how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10? Am I experiencing stress, anger, sadness? And I better find ways to deal with that, right? So that's why I'm big on the me first. So typically I train first, uh, and then I'll be 3 days a week I train my daughter. We go to the gym together, and it's breakfast, and I take her to school. So that just fills my cup, as you hear people say. And then the rest of the day, the rest of the world can have me there because I've had my bit.
Exactly. I think you practically nailed it with that answer. Like the underlying motive there is just me first, and the whole world can have the rest of me. So I think you and I are very similar in that context, except you're more disciplined in the 4:30 a.m. I do my workouts at 9 a.m. So and I start at midday. So training clients here at the gym. So yeah, but I guess everyone's different. Not everyone's an early bird like yourself. Not everyone's a night owl. But you found your niche and you found what keeps you happy and what keeps you first. So that's why when you do all your weightlifting first thing 4:30 or 5:30 in the morning, the good thing about that is that you got your mind sharp, you got that out of the way, and then the rest of the world can see the better version of you because you're feeling sharp.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that part because I see people posting like up at 3:30, and I go, hey, your medals in the mail. You go like big deal, like people that carry on, no sleeping for me on the weekend. Oh, who gives a shit? It's like you're not special. It's like just because you're like, it doesn't have to be that way. The me first principle I should explain is that it's like making sure in your week that you've got those time slots allocated for you because it might be 9 o'clock, right? You go like my time to train as myself is that just that, but you're doing it. You're putting in your calendar first. So I prioritize things on me first. Like when am I having relationship time with my partner? Date night. When do we go on holidays for the year? Like I put all that stuff in first, all the way down to weekly. So the whole year's planned out. Like we're off to Bali in a few weeks, right? That was planned last year. We're in Brazil at the start of the year, so it's all like me first, and then I plan everything else around it. So you're right. If it's 9 o'clock, cool. Just long as it's in there, and you're going to get it done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, well, there we go. Me first. I mean, for those of you listening, you first. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Me. Awesome. Yep. So you practically already answered the next question, which was, can you please give us a preview of your weekly lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to answer that anymore because you already did that. But let's go into what we're both fanatics of, UFC. So who is your favorite UFC/MMA fighter and why?
Yeah, it's I know you asked me that, and I've got a few, but look, I believe overall, like George St. Pierre was was the guy that still to this day I just because he was a true martial artist through and through, come from that traditional background, but just the way he carried himself, the way he trained, he was always ahead, he was always evolving. He wasn't a wrestler, but he became one of the best takedown artists in the game, taking down guys who come from Division One and all that stuff, wrestling. Josh Koscheck, Matt, he just took them all down.
Yeah.
Timing, and he just learned how to, do that really effectively and put it together. So he still, to me, was a standout. And just to stay at the top for so long and come back when he lost to Matt Hughes, and then he beat him the second time adjusted. And then Matt Serra, and then he come back, and that's just the sign of a champion, like he just come back better from it, and just everything about him, I like.
I think one of the things I learned from him as well, because remember that first devastating loss second loss that he had, which was a Matt Serra in the first fight. After he lost that, I mean, I wouldn't say he blamed, but he just got rid of the unnecessary people in his life. Because he had some bad influences there, like giving him ill advice about like how to party and how to celebrate your winnings and all that stuff. But then he realized that they didn't mean well at all, and then all of a sudden he became this guy who's arguably the greatest of all time when it comes to UFC or mixed martial arts in general. Of course, people will say it's John Jones or Anderson Silva or maybe but I'm glad you and I have that mutual opinion about that because the way he carried himself in the ring. Of course, I mean, what's his name? John Jones. He's really great as well, but I'm not going to talk bad about him in this context. I mean, in this episode. But the thing is, I appreciate his talents and his accomplishments, but I just didn't like the way he carried himself in and out of the ring. But that's for another topic. I'm not here to bash anybody.
I think they're two different questions. Like, who is your, who do you like as the all-time, or your favorite UFC fighter, and then there's like who do you think's the most talented inside, who had the best fight IQ, and some of those things would be John Jones, like his ability to his fight IQ in the ring is just at another level. So
Yeah, I agree. And that
yeah,
Greco-Roman wrestling that he had, like, when he first started, it was nice to watch all that, like, how he
well,
suplexed Stephen Bonner and, Andre Guzmao and his UFC
yeah.
94 debut and
Well,
all that stuff. Um,
Keith Jardine, because my coach Stan Higgins, he was a part of Jackson's back in the day, so he used to go over there and train, and that was when John Jones was just unknown, and Keith Verdun had been out, he'd been training with us, Nate Marquette, they'd come out, Diego Sanchez, they'd all come out and train with us, and Keith, I heard him say this recently, but in the gym he'd seen John get tailed up heaps, like, but he has that ability to slow everything down in the cage, and that's that how to perform under pressure, where you can get a superstar in the gym, but then under pressure they call it choking or they don't perform. So anyone can look like a superstar on the training mats, but it's how do you go when the pressure's on, the lights and cameras on. He thrived under that set of circumstance.
I think it's because, like, him getting his butt kicked at the gym. I think that's what made him excel. And
Could be.
because he was just nice to watch, especially when before he became part of Jackson Wink, right? Like, he had that raw talent of just making it look easy, and then when it became technical, it became even more nicer to watch. It's just like this guy's like a god mode, when you watch.
Yeah.
But it's just I'm not going to deny his talent, but I kind of wish he had that kind of demeanor as GSP. But they're all two different people. But I guess I don't mean to compare. But it's with John Jones. I just said that he still has potential, and he had a potential that he could have gone even further, in my opinion. So it's like the hit and run accident and all that stuff. But I'm sure I hope he's actually learned from that, and I just hope that he's he's not.
I fucking doubt it.
But
I doubt it.
Didn't you say you also used to train with Carl Noak, and Dan Higgins used to train with Carl Noak as well? Am I correct?
Yeah. So Kyle and Damien Brown, who are all in the UFC. Back then we all trained together. So some wild days back then. So that was I would have been 30 back then. Even then, that was probably late to be getting into MMA. That's when we really got into MMA. It was wild days, tough days, because it was still a pretty new sport still 20 years ago in Australia. So yeah.
Yeah, and Carl Noak was in that time when GSP was still in his prime, I think. So
I think GSP was still he was still fighting at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, different era, and that was the best era of champions. But going back to champions, I think the most spectacular champion who had the most spectacular title reign was actually Anderson Silva in his prime, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It just made it look like The Matrix or just like a kung fu movie.
That's crazy.
Yeah, all that
crazy.
The ducking and weaving and all that stuff. You don't do that stuff in Muay Thai, but he not only did it in in boxing, but he made it look like in Muay Thai, but he did it in MMA, high level MMA. So
you're right. Actually, I didn't think about him, but you're right. He had a devastating run. It's just no one could touch him until Chris Weidman figured out the puzzle. But he probably had gone slightly past his expiry date by the time Chris Weidman, who was younger and all that stuff at that time. But it just had the right. Just again, matchups, right? Styles make matchups. So
I think so. Yeah. And I think if he took that Chris Weidman fight seriously, I mean, talking about the first one, he probably would have beaten Weidman at least on points. You know what I mean? But I think I love Ray Longo's advice in between round 1 and 2. I want you to punch a effing hole in his head, and I was like, okay, that's not very practical. But it's not a very practical advice. But he just did it. So
and the thing is, the longer you're at the top, the more people get to study you, right? So that's the disadvantage as well. So at the time Chris Weidman fought him, they had hours and hours and hours of his tape still in the same stuff and all that. So you got to still go and execute it in the fight.
Yeah.
But when you're coming up, there's not as much footage on you. People can't study you as well.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good
I'm
point.
telling you about the top, the more they study, you see where they start to slow, where they start to not move as well.
Yeah,
There's just more to go. Okay, I can see each flight he's slowly off the pace a bit, but he's still doing the same stuff, hasn't
yeah,
evolved. So
yeah.
there's just more of that stuff you get to study, right?
I think the last few fights of not Chris, Anderson Silva's reign, he was actually doing the mind games thing, making you feel like you're not worthy to be there with
Yeah.
him in the cage. He's playing around and just making you look foolish and you don't know what you're doing. I think like what you said, they studied him and they helped him out with the psychological. Okay, don't play into the mind games. You're there to fight. You're not there to have fun. You're there to fight.
Well,
And yeah,
yeah.
and
Well, like that's like with most people, like Tyson. Most of them lost before they got in the cage, right?
yeah,
Psychologically, they had already lost. They didn't think they could beat him. But Chris Weidman, I think he studied psychology, so he was quite mentally strong. So
yeah.
that was part of it as well. Obviously, you could see he had the belief that he could beat him, and he did. But you're right, most of them got in the cage with Anderson Silva, and they'd lost before they even started.
Yeah. I think because part of it's like being mentally defeated, just like Aldo versus Conor McGregor, right? The UFC 194. It was sad for me to see that, but the
Me
thing was, I
too.
mean, yeah,
It killed me.
I know, because that was the first time I ever went for Aldo, because for obvious reasons. But the thing was, I mean, Conor was smart enough to effectively and mentally affect him. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you're doing that time. But psychology, yeah. So let's talk about that in your one. I mean, can you give us like more like psychological tips? That I mean, of course, I've learned a lot from you, but can you give us a few advice here and there before we go to the next question? Because for those people who are actually listening to this, they might even learn something new, and then it's good exposure for your business if it's
I mean, depends on what context when you talk about the mindset. Like if it's if it's to do with overcoming current habits that you're struggling to break through. There's many areas. Have you got any
or
specific?
or maybe personal trainers, like just like selling yourself. Like, of course, you don't have to get into detail.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I understand you have a business to run, but just a glimpse of it. Just like for example, people who are struggling to like for example, you taught me about the USB. Maybe just
Yeah.
you can lecture people about the USB in your own words for like a minute or two. If that's okay.
Yeah. Well, the first part is understanding that you're not selling personal training, or you're selling a solution and an outcome. So the problem that I faced when I started, and also a lot of trainers' experience, is that when you're going to put a price on yourself, that can be quite confronting. So, like I'd like to charge 100, but I'm only really charging 70 because that's where I feel like I'm worth it. Everyone's got that, and we have an emotional response to numbers, right? They're not even real; they're made up. But I go, what if you charge 100? You see people go, oh, I'd like to, but 100, I don't think people will pay that. And I'll go, and they go, well, why would they pay it? It's a little bit much, isn't it, for personal training? So what it tells me is that there's a couple of things. One, they just don't feel like they're at that level where they're deserving of it, but also that they're now thinking for other people. So one of my favourite sayings, and we say at Training HQ, is you have no right for what someone will or won't pay for your service. Your job is to provide a solution to someone's problem. And so it's a shift in mindset. So we're talking about mindset. I go, well, unless you find out what that person's problem is, and the next question is, now I've heard what it is, like I've struggled to lose, say, 5 to 10 kilos for the last 5 years. And you start asking the right questions and you decide, yeah, I could help that person. I can see where they're going wrong and I've actually got a solution for it. That's when things start to change, right? So everything's too expensive until you see the value.
Of course.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't sell you this pen for $1 if you don't want it. I go, but it's only $1. Give us $1. You go, I don't want it. But if I said this is a magic pen, and when you hold it in your hand, it'll increase your testosterone levels by 300%, and I could give you some social proof of that. Now, how much is it worth? Well, if you've got a problem with your testosterone, and I've seen case studies, you've seen evidence, and you believe that what I'm saying is true, I could probably now sell that for 5,000.
Yeah.
Because now it's not about the pen, it's about the benefit, it's
Mm-hmm.
about the end result. So that's partly where trainers go wrong is they go, oh, well, Miguel's charging 70, Jason's charging 85. I guess I'll be somewhere in the middle. I'll charge 75.
Yeah. Because like what you said, especially in the first lecture I've heard you actually talk when I first met you, it's like one of the best, the most common question that people ask is when they find out you're a personal trainer is like, how much do you charge? But the one thing that you I got a habit of from what you taught me directly, indirectly was, well, what are you after first? And then they tell me what they're after, like you said. I want to lose 5 to 10 kilos because I have my wedding coming up in like 7 months, blah, blah, blah. And then you just keep asking, and then you map up a plan to get to that 7 kilograms off your waist, off your body fat or whatever you call it. Then it's okay, only that for this much, once a week or twice a week, blah, blah. And then 90% of the time, okay, I'll do it because they buy based on emotion and you sell them a vision. So that's one thing I'm grateful for you. So I'm not going to give too much away because this is your niche. Because this,
it's good stuff, and it's stuff that needs to be shared because it's still to this day, after running Train HQ for going on almost 20 years, it's still something that I don't see trainers understanding or getting the concept of. So when people say, "What do you charge?" I just tell them the price, and of course, well, that poor consumer has. But most people ask the price because they don't know what else to ask you, so they don't know what to ask you. They don't ask you, hey, they go, do you specialise in, this, and this? They don't. So they just ask you how much you charge for personal training. They don't really they don't need a personal trainer. They don't need to go to the gym. What they want is a solution to the reason that they haven't been able to lose the 10 kilos. They've got a bad lower back, their knees and stuff. That's what they actually need the solution for. And that's what you said before. You're trying to figure out what's the problem. So there's many ways you can navigate. Someone says, how much you charge? I go, it's $1 million until I find out what you need.
Exactly.
And people go, oh, okay. So it just breaks their pattern, right? So I go, look, firstly, I don't even know if what I do can help you. Secondly, I've got no idea what you want, how many times you may need to train, what kind of plan you're going to need, how much time that's going to take. Is it 12 weeks, 16 weeks? So as I start to do that, but then I'll go, would it be helpful if I explain the type of results I get for people, the type of clients I work with? And when they say yes, they give you permission to expand. I go, well, when you're 10 or 15 kilos overweight, you haven't trained for 5 or 10 years, and you feel like it's harder to get the weight off, no matter what you try, it just doesn't seem to move. And they go, yeah. You go, well, what I do is I show people my 5-step process that will help them to speed up their metabolism, burn excess body fat while they're resting and sleeping, become bulletproof in terms of their body so they don't get injured on the way, and to stay on track and motivated. So, like, what have I just done there? Well, I'm selling you the solution. This is what I do. I don't do it's not personal training. This is what I actually focus on. So if you don't know how to do that, you don't know how to sell your solution, then you're just blending in with all the other personal trainers, and people are just going to ask you how much they charge. They don't know what else to ask, and then all that per person's going to go, well, you're 70, he's 60, he's 85. I guess I'll go somewhere in the middle. He looks good, though. He looks like he's a good trainer, good fit. So I'll go with him.
Yeah, I think, what it all comes down to that, David Jones and /Meyer type of personal trainer can fit the target and Kmart theory that you taught me, over the years. And, of course, like none of us can be straight out of AIPT or what do you call it? What do you call that again?
AIF?
AIF, yep, AIF or FIA, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Like, none of us could actually be that 5-star personal trainer overnight. It comes with experience and knowledge, So like what you said, it's just like it's not about the price, it's about the quality service that you're going to provide. Of course, it's not just about the price, but having that niche. So, one of the things that I learned from you, even when I'm doing cold calls here at the gym or at home, is that, hey, okay, cool, okay, well, Jace, okay, so you want that complimentary personal training session. Okay, I'm just going to send you a couple of emails, one of the screening questionnaire, just to see what you're after, to see if your needs will align with my special trainer, because at the end of the day, if we work together short or long term, this is going to be about you. So I'm here
Yeah.
to help you, but let's make sure that first, stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm grateful
yeah.
for that. Yeah, I'm grateful
Yeah,
for that.
lower their defences. I don't feel like they're being sold to, and it's, yeah, that's the right way to go about it. It's like, hey, I don't even know if what I do is going to be right for you.
Mm,
So all
mm,
that does is lower their defence, right? So they're more open to sharing with you. So like, you might not even need me,
mm.
like I've got no idea just yet. So that's why we're not even anywhere near prices, because I don't even know if working together makes sense.
Yeah, well, there was a lady around here just in this gym a few weeks ago. Just say, hey, look, I want to compete again in bodybuilding in 6 months. Can you help me out? I said, I would, but I've never done it. So, but
Yeah,
how about if I refer you to a couple of guys in the area who've done it at least a few times? Can I give them your details? And they're like, yeah, sure, but how much do they charge? I said, you need to talk to them
yeah,
because I can't speak for them, but you know what? They can help you more than I can. So obviously, I can't give them what they can't have. So
yeah.
I've never done
That's right.
bodybuilding competition like Brad. I mean, Brad's, have you done it yourself like Brad or not really?
Bodybuilding.
Yeah, bodybuilding
Yeah, that's
competition.
how we met. We met on the bodybuilding stage at 15. So we did our first comp together at 15,
Oh,
and
that's right. How could I forget?
yeah. So yeah, I did. I've probably done 6 shows or something in my life. 6 bodybuilding shows, 6 or 7.
Oh, okay, good. There we go. See, I can't believe I forgot about that. But yeah, because that explains why. Because like obviously he's a Sydney sider, you're a Brizzy boy, so
Yeah,
it makes sense and all that stuff. So yeah, but cool. Yeah, because Nish is number one. Just like there's one of the trainers here. He's new Carlos. He's a tennis trainer. He used to play national level in Chile, but now he's here and he's training people at 5 a.m. to midday now, and then I'm the guy midday onwards, so it works out well. So yeah,
yeah, cool.
yeah, it's the niche thing, but you know what? I'm grateful for Jace, like for teaching me these things. Yeah, so for those new personal trainers, like I said, I cannot express. Reach out to him, and he may be the right guy to help you because if he's helped me out, you could be the right person to be helped out by this legendary man himself here. So speaking of that, the next question is about hobbies because hobbies are a big part of your lifestyle. What are your favorite hobbies? Do you spend time with? So,
Yeah, mate, for me, it's experiences. So apart from when I'm spending way too much time on YouTube, going over like Andrew Huberman's videos and things about, I guess, I don't want to say anti-aging, but just things for recovery and to be able to stay more youthful. That stuff really fascinates me. So I'd say that's a hobby of mine. But traveling is the big one. So I love traveling. I love road trips. I recently got rid of my Harley, and that was one of my favorite things to do. Was just up on the bike and go because no radio, no phone, and just switch off. But going to the movies, hanging out with family, uh, becoming being like a tourist in my own backyard. So every weekend we're almost doing something, exploring somewhere, going somewhere different. So for me, they're the things that I really enjoy doing in my spare time. And because during the week I'm really purpose focused, I've got my structure, my routine, which I really like. On the weekends, uh, I like to switch off, really just leave any of that kind of structure and that stuff, from Monday to Friday. It's all about relaxation, having fun, experiences, going out. So they're typically my hobbies. Like we're off to the Gold Class movies tonight, and I love that stuff. Just I'm going to switch off and just enjoy some time with the family.
And when it comes to spending time with your little girl, yeah, did you do much like aqua golf or like what do you like to do with her and what does she like to do with you if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, that's cool. We got a really close relationship, which I'm unfortunate about. And a big part of that is I've heard other parents whinge about I've got to pick them up at school, drop them off, but we're about 25 minutes away from me at school, so that time's amazing because we're in the car, we're connecting, we're chatting. So I really value that time. I'm going to miss it actually when she's in grade 10, so she's only got a couple more years of school, but I guess in a little while she'll be driving herself. So uh, that stuff, and then when she got in the gym, she wasn't really that sporty from a young age. She's definitely more into art and she has art classes and art lessons. But the last year, she's really got into the gym and being more active, loves the boxing. So, if I'm not holding pads and she's doing boxing and we're going to the gym, we're going for bike rides, so she's become really active. But we just got a really great relationship. She'll tell me everything. Now it's like all boys stuff now. So it's all he's cute. So the little girl's gone, and it's all about that now. It's like I showed her the scene from the Den of Thieves, and I go, well, when you get your boyfriend, he'll be coming to the garage and meeting all the fellas, and if he can last a session there, then he'll get the tick of approval. So.
Yeah, the new 12 formal and the new 10 formal.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like I'm really, fortunate, but worked hard at it as well. Like just to develop a really good relationship where she feels comfortable talking to me about, pretty much everything. So, but going to the gym together. She has her own program now, but for the good 3 or 4 months, I wanted to make sure that she was really trained technique. She knew how to use everything. She got a good understanding of training and mechanical and the way the body works. Point of view, and she's really efficient at that. So, like I said, there's 3 mornings a week where we're training before school. We're at brekkie. Also, that time for me is just so priceless, and I look back and I go, I'm just so glad experience because you're training, you're going, you're pushing each other, and you're chatting in the car, brekkie. So the connection's real strong. So I couldn't imagine being an absent parent where, and this is not a criticism of anybody else, because I know it maybe doesn't suit everyone's lifestyle. I just personally, when we having kids, I just wanted to make sure that, I was there able to take her to school, pick her up. So I had my lifestyle designed so I could do that. I didn't want to be coming home at like 6, 7 o'clock at night and exhausted and tired. So that part was really important to me and be able to fulfill it. So.
Yeah, I think the flexibility actually helps you balance that out, because not a lot of people these days can say, "Oh, my dad picked me up from school today," or whatever you call it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
If you're in a 9 to 5 job, and I get it, and it's not everyone has that structure in their lifestyle. So, but yeah, I mean, I designed it. That was by design. I started to work for myself, and but I didn't think about that stuff until started having kids, and first it was like I just wanted to create my own business and do something really purposeful and passion, and it wasn't working for somebody else. That was never going to be my destiny. But then as a kid, Brad and I, Brad's got 2 kids as well, and as we joined together, we were literally after that first year kids, so we're on the same path, and neither of us were going to compromise working later and all that stuff to miss out on family life. That was just a non-negotiable for us that we put in at the start, and we just made it work and made sure we were effective with our time. We weren't going to compromise the time with the family.
I guess the good thing about you and Brad as separate individuals is that you balance not just your business relationship but your personal lives. So of course, I can only imagine, but the balance is never going to be perfect. But you make it work somehow. Am I correct?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we do compliment each other really well, and over almost 18 years, I could probably count on one hand how many times we've actually had maybe slight disagreements or something that was going down that path. Normally we're on the out when we're on the piss, drinking. That was probably fueled by that, but for the most part, I think it just comes down to we were both had done a lot of work on ourselves. We were a lot more mature when we met. So I think it would be different if I was going back into my 20s or maybe even early 30s. But when we met, we both had a fair bit of experience. I'd done a lot of work on myself personally, so that'll help. And our values aligned. And like you said, we're saying in a lot of ways, and we're different in a lot of ways. So we just complement each other really well. So I probably spent more time with him than I have my family, and the amount of times when you traveling down to Sydney, we used to do 16 2-day workshops a year. We'd be in Sydney 4 or 5 times. So you're sharing hotel rooms. You're going out for dinners. Like we should travel, overseas. So when you're in each other's space like that, you pretty quickly find out how good you get on, right? Because you're in each other's space the whole time. So
Yeah.
when you travel with somebody, that's when you really know how well your relationship is. Because
Oh, yes. Even with business partners, am I correct?
yeah, because you're flying together, you're doing everything together. There's a lot going on. So you pretty quickly figure out you're gonna.
I cannot
You, it,
working at the same time as business partners as individuals because for me, I just like traveling by myself. But that's just me. Not everyone's
yeah,
meant to be like me. But even I like going to the cinemas by myself, or
yeah, yeah,
sometimes an occasional date with a girl. But the thing is, a lot of times, if I'm going by myself, I get to choose the movie. I get to choose the time. So,
yeah. Yeah,
so
well, I mean, and the movie's the perfect thing about it because you're not going there to talk anyway, right? It's antisocial. You're just sitting in a movie. It's not if you want to be social, movie's not the place to go because you're just sitting there, not talking anyway. It's just
that's
you
right.
just so it's
Yeah.
it's it's perfect for that to go by yourself.
I think when it comes to dating, I know we're going off topic here, but when it comes to dating, I think the cinemas is more like the third or fourth date, in my opinion, because that way he or she gets. I mean, they get to see what you're after, because
Yeah.
yeah, but like the traditional thing, I like to lead. Oh, we're watching Mission Impossible movie, and she doesn't like. Okay, go home. So this is me time, So yeah, you want to join me in my me time? So yeah. So,
Yeah.
but cool. Like, let's go to the next question before we conclude shortly. So, what advice would you give to anyone who wants to start not just their martial arts training, but improve their lifestyle? Warren, how would you recommend they start?
If we just talk about martial arts to start with, it comes back to what I said earlier. It's like being clear. What do you want from it? So, is it to protect your family? Is it to feel more confident out in public? So if that's what you're after, then you've got to find the right school that's going to match up with that. And this is no disrespect to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu other schools, but there's plenty out there that I wouldn't go to if you're after that type of self-defense, because if they don't do striking, if they don't start from the feet, if they don't do some kind of wrestling, then it's not going to help you, in my opinion. And I know plenty of black belts, people I know that would not be confident, and they said it to me. They would not be confident if someone started throwing punches at them in the street because they've never experienced it. So how can you do a self-defense or martial art and you've never had a punch throw at you, see how you're going to react? Because that's what's going to happen out there. If you're doing it for sport and you just want to go and it's a good activity for you to do, and it's something that gives you mental stimulation, but you want to go and compete in sports jiu-jitsu, perfect. If that's what you want to do. So it's just figuring out what are you doing it for? What is the purpose of this? So
I think
for,
yeah, keep
I
going.
was going to say for me these days, like I've got no desire to compete anymore, any of that kind of stuff. I feel like I get it at the gym now. My last time I competed, I was a purple belt, and it was horrendous because I just been hanging around all day. They're always late, and I've just got better things to do with my time. But at the garage, for me, it's now there's some older guys my age, families going through the same thing, and there's some younger guys. We get to test each other. We do the striking. So I feel ready for out there that I've got no problems with that, and that's what I want it for. I'm not interested in doing competition and doing that stuff. It's like, but if the shit is the fan and I need to defend myself and all that, I'm good to go. And the funny thing about that is that you get a confidence with that going, that you can tell those who are just on alcohol and they've got all this courage, and they're the people I wouldn't even bother with because I go only fight fighters. I don't fight morons.
Yeah.
And if you're still feeling the same way when you're sober, here's my card. Come and see me when you're sober, and we can take care of it in the gym.
Yeah.
And they never show up, but um, so that's
Yeah.
that part. That's that part. So I think it just figure out what you want to do it for. Is it confidence? Because it might evolve. It might evolve from just I'm doing it for a bit of fitness, for something to be a part of the community, to meet new people, to learn some new skills, and then it might evolve to, hey, I really like this, so now I might go on to do some boxing and striking. But in general, I think if you've got basic boxing, but okay wrestling like Greco, and you got some submissions, you're in a good stead. for self-defense.
Mm. I think you're not the only jiu-jitsu guy who actually who told me that. Like, some jiu-jitsu schools out there are just all about just getting straight to the mat and all that stuff. Because
Oh, yeah.
I did train a girl named Corey, and if she's listening to this, hello, Corey. But anyway, yeah, she did tell me about how the current school not the current, the previous school that she went to before her current one just around the corner, SJJA, she told me it was a bit of a Mac Dojo kind of gym where the black belt instructor wasn't really that good and he just wasn't really approachable and he just didn't know how to teach. He kind of knew his stuff, but I guess it all comes down to that having a good teacher as well because, because
for
I
sure.
think not everyone who is a good fighter or jiu-jitsu guy or boxer will be a good trainer and vice versa.
Correct. And look, I help out the younger guys there, and I've got no desire to coach and teach. It's just not. I do it for me. That's me first. I'm a busy person. I have a lot of responsibilities. It's my time, so I don't. I do a lot of coaching in my own life everywhere. So I want to go and get my bit out of it, but I get a lot out of helping the guys that are lower belts, but I don't want to go and run my own school or coach. And I said I'm there to make sure that I can still beat up these younger guys. It's it's not a very noble. So I go. I whisper in their ear, I'm 51 this year, man. You're like 25. I mean, come on, you don't want this old guy beating your ass, So it's a bit of fun, but it keeps me young. You know what I mean? It keeps me youthful, and I'm going. Well, I'm still good. I'm still matching it. Put me with some younger, high level fighters. They're probably a different story. But
let's just say you're 51 years young, not old. Yeah.
Yeah. But I tell that to them. To mess with their mind. Like this old man's kicking your ass. Like I know I'm young, but I say it. This 51-year-old is beating your ass.
Yeah, I know. Look, you know what? It's humbling for them, because hopefully they don't have to learn the hard way like I did, like back in the day. It's back in my early 20s or late teens. Yeah, just I thought I was the man coming from the karate background, and all of a sudden started learning boxing and Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Get my butt kicked because oh shit, they're kicking me for real. They're not practicing the katas that I gained my black belt in and blah 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 like that. So yeah, but it is what it is. Did you have any closing thoughts before we conclude there, Polish Power?
No. I mean, look, I think it doesn't matter if it's fitness, if it's martial arts. I think just sit down and really ask yourself, why are you doing this? What's your bigger purpose? So what's your drive? It's not just about getting fit or strong. What's this going to mean to your life, to your future? Because I don't know about you, but I think about that stuff now. I'm now thinking like, I look at people who are in their 70s or 80s who are still in good health, and I go, what are they doing? And I study them. I'm not interested in the influencers, and no knock on them, or 20, 30-year-olds. At this age, I'm looking at who's ahead of me, like who's 70 and 80 and still, what are they doing? What do they get involved in? How's their mindset? So think about what do you want to do this for? What's the purpose? Not just I should go to the gym or I should get fit. Like it's what will this mean to your life? Will you deal with stress better? Will you be a better father? Will you be able to turn up better? What does it really mean? So I don't like to use. I'm not like a modern day samurai warrior, but I have that type of mindset where this is a part of me. It's not something I do. It's who I am. It's a part of me. Like samurai type of experience. Not that I'm saying I'm a samurai in any shape or form, but I just go, that's part of my life. It's non-negotiable.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your time, Jason, in other words. So, yeah. Look, if you guys want some quality coaching, you as personal trainers, I'll leave his Instagram pages on the description box below, and you guys can contact him directly, because if you feel that it's the right thing for you to move forward with your personal training careers and just the sky's not even the limit, please reach out to him, because he's a good man himself. I've learned a lot from him. But we do appreciate your time viewing this. For those of you viewers, until the next episode, please take care of yourselves. Adios, everybody.
See you, brother. Bye-bye.
Cool. Stay in touch. Yep.